Hey friends, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm 34 years old and I'm a commercial real estate developer in Charleston, South Carolina. 3 weeks ago, my family uninvited me from Thanksgiving to keep it small, while still inviting 18 other relatives. So I hosted my own Thanksgiving at my $8 million waterfront estate with 25 guests. When the photos went viral on social media, my mother called me crying, saying I'd embarrassed the entire family. But when she found out why I threw that party, she went silent. What happened next changed everything. Stay until the end to see how this unfolded. And if you love stories about turning rejection into power, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in my place. It started with a phone call from my older sister, Victoria, on a Tuesday afternoon in early November. I was in my home office reviewing blueprints for a mixed-use development project when her name flashed on my screen. Victoria rarely called me directly. We usually only talked at family gatherings, so I answered with mild concern. "Hey, Vic, everything okay?" "Hey, Elena." Her voice had that careful, practiced tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news. "So I'm calling about Thanksgiving." My family had hosted Thanksgiving at my parents' house in Columbia, South Carolina, for as long as I could remember. It was our biggest gathering of the year. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole extended family. "What about it?" I asked, setting down my pen. "Well, Mom and Dad have decided to keep things smaller this year. Just immediate family. With everything going on." I frowned. "Smaller? What do you mean?" Victoria hesitated. "Just fewer people. More intimate. They thought it would be nice to scale back." Something in her tone felt off. "Okay," I said slowly. "So, who's coming?" Another pause. "Me, Richard, and the kids, Brandon and Ashley, Aunt Marie's family, Uncle Carlos, the Johnsons from Dad's side." "Wait!" I sat up straighter. "That's like 18 people. How is that keeping it small?" "Elena, don't make this difficult." The realization hit me like ice water. "I'm not invited. It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Victoria?" She sighed, irritated. "Mom just thought it would be easier this year without complications." "Complications?" I repeated. "What complications?" "You know how you are," Victoria said, her voice taking on that condescending edge I'd heard my whole life. "You always make everything about your career, your properties, your accomplishments. Mom wants Thanksgiving to be about family, not a networking event." I felt heat rising in my chest. When have I ever made Thanksgiving about work? "Last year you spent half the dinner on your phone closing some deal." "I was responding to an emergency with a contractor," I interrupted. "The roof was leaking on a property with tenants inside. I stepped outside for 15 minutes. "See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You always have an excuse." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Victoria, can you just be honest with me? Why am I really not invited?" There was a long silence. Then, quietly, "Mom thinks you're too focused on showing off. The fancy car, the Instagram posts about your properties. She says you make everyone else feel bad about their lives." The words stung more than I expected. "So, I'm being punished for being successful?" "It's not punishment, Elena. It's just, Mom wants people to feel comfortable. And lately, you've been very visible." By visible, she meant successful. I'd spent the last decade building my real estate portfolio from nothing. I'd started as a property manager making $42,000 a year, saved aggressively, both, to my first duplex and scaled from there. Now at 34, I owned a commercial real estate firm with 17 properties across 3 states and a personal net worth of just over $12 million. I'd worked 80-hour weeks for years, sacrificed relationships, missed birthdays and weddings, all to build something that was mine. And my family thought I was showing off. "Does Brandon get uninvited for posting about his boat?" I asked, referring to my cousin who constantly bragged about his fishing yacht, which his father bought him. "That's different." "How?" "Elena, I don't want to argue. Mom's decision is final. We'll see you at Christmas." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there in my office, staring at my phone, feeling a mix of anger and something deeper, hurt. My own family had excluded me, not for being cruel or selfish, but for being successful. What I did next would show them exactly what they'd given up. I spent the rest of that day in a fog of anger. I went through the motions, answered emails, took calls with contractors, reviewed financial reports, but my mind kept circling back to that conversation. Mom thinks you're too focused on showing off. I'd bought my parents' mortgage when my father lost his job 3 years ago. I'd paid for my niece's private school tuition when Victoria couldn't afford it. I'd co-signed my brother Brandon's business loan. And this was how they thanked me? By cutting me out of Thanksgiving because my success made them uncomfortable? That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood on the terrace of my waterfront estate. The property sat on 4 acres overlooking Charleston Harbor, with a main house, guest cottage, and pristine gardens. I bought it 2 years ago for $7.2 million and renovated it myself, overseeing every detail. It was my sanctuary, my proof that I'd made something of myself, and suddenly, I had an idea. If my family wanted to keep Thanksgiving small and comfortable, fine. I'd host my own Thanksgiving. A big, lavish, beautiful Thanksgiving that would show everyone exactly what they'd missed. The next morning, I started making calls. First, I called my college roommate, Jasmine Park, who lived in Atlanta. "Jazz, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?" "Probably ordering Chinese food and watching Netflix," she laughed. "Why? Come to Charleston. I'm hosting." "Seriously?" "Dead serious. Bring whoever you want. I've got plenty of space." Next, I called my business partner, Marcus Chen, who I knew was spending Thanksgiving alone after his recent divorce. "Marcus, I'm hosting Thanksgiving at my place. You're coming, and that's not optional." "Elena, I don't want to intrude." "You're not intruding. You're family. Be here at 2 p.m. on Thursday. Bring wine." I called my assistant, Sophie, who mentioned she had nowhere to go because her family lived overseas. I called the construction crew foreman, David, who'd become a friend over the years. I called my real estate mentor, Patricia Monroe, a 68-year-old powerhouse who'd taught me everything about commercial development. I called colleagues, clients who'd become friends, neighbors I'd gotten close to over the years. Every person I called had the same reaction: surprise, gratitude, and then enthusiasm. Within 3 days, I had 25 confirmed guests. I hired a catering company out of Charleston's best restaurant. I ordered flowers from a boutique florist. I had my housekeeper deep clean every room in the main house and prepare the guest cottage. I set up long tables on my terrace overlooking the water, strung with Edison lights and decorated with autumn arrangements of gold and burgundy. I arranged for a live jazz trio. I ordered enough food for an army: roasted turkey, honey-glazed ham, truffle mashed potatoes, maple roasted Brussels sprouts, 3 types of stuffing, crumb, airy sauce, 7 different pies. This wasn't just a dinner. It was a statement. Sophie came over the day before Thanksgiving to help with final preparations. "This is incredible," she said, looking around at the setup. "But can I ask, why are you doing all this?" I told her about the phone call, about being uninvited, about my family's reasoning. Sophie's expression darkened. "They uninvited you for being successful?" "Apparently, I make people uncomfortable." "That's insane. You've worked harder than anyone I know." "I know." I adjusted one of the floral centerpieces. "So I'm going to throw the best Thanksgiving anyone's ever seen, and I'm going to document every second of it." Sophie grinned. "Oh, I like where this is going." I pulled out my phone. "I'm going to post photos, stories, videos, not to show off, but to show them what they gave up when they decided I wasn't worth including." "Do it," Sophie said. "They deserve to see what they're missing." And when those photos went viral, my family's reaction was something I never expected. Thanksgiving Day was perfect. The weather cooperated. Sunny, 68 degrees with a light breeze coming off the harbor. My estate had never looked better. Guests started arriving around 1 p.m. Jasmine showed up with her boyfriend and her sister. Marcus brought his teenage daughter, who'd been dreading a quiet Thanksgiving after her parents' divorce. Patricia Monroe arrived with her husband and a bottle of wine older than I was. David, my construction foreman, brought his wife and 3 kids. Sophie came with her boyfriend. My neighbor, an elderly widow named Mrs. Chen, who I'd helped with some property issues last year, arrived with homemade empanadas. By 2 p.m., my terrace was filled with laughter, conversation, and the smell of incredible food. I stood back for a moment, taking it all in. These weren't just random people. These were people who'd supported me, believed in me, worked alongside me. They were my chosen family. The jazz trio played softly in the background. The sun glinted off the harbor. The tables looked like something out of a magazine. Sophie caught my eye and held up her phone. "Photo time?" I smiled. "Let's do it." We took pictures, lots of them. Wide shots of the tables and the harbor, close-ups of the food, group photos with guests laughing and toasting, candid shots of kids running through the gardens, a photo of me with Patricia, both of us raising our glasses. I posted them to Instagram with the caption, "Grateful for the family you choose. Happy Thanksgiving from my home to yours. Hashtag Thanksgiving, #grateful, Charleston, #blessed." What happened next, I didn't expect. The photos started getting traction immediately. Friends commented, colleagues shared, but then it spread beyond my circle. A local Charleston food blogger reposted one of the photos, tagging the catering company. A lifestyle influencer I'd worked with on a property deal shared it to her 200,000 followers. A real estate publication picked it up as an example of architectural entertaining. By Friday morning, my post had over 50,000 likes and hundreds of comments. People were calling it Thanksgiving Goals. Magazines were asking to feature the photos. A few news outlets reached out asking about the estate and the story behind the gathering. My phone was blowing up with notifications. And then, around 11 a.m., I got the call I'd been halfway expecting. It was my mother, Elena. Her voice was tight, strained. "We need to talk." "Hi, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving." "Don't happy Thanksgiving me. What were you thinking?" I sat down on my couch, already exhausted. "What do you mean?" "Those photos. They're everywhere. Your Aunt Marie sent them to me. Your cousin Jessica saw them on Facebook. Everyone is asking me why you weren't at our Thanksgiving." "You didn't invite me," I said calmly. "Remember? That's not the point." "Then what is the point, Mom?" Her voice rose. "You did this to embarrass us, to show off, to make us look bad." I felt that familiar anger rising again. I threw a party for people I care about. How is that embarrassing you? Because now everyone thinks we excluded you. They're asking what we did wrong. You made us look like terrible parents. "Did you exclude me?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. That's not how it was meant to be taken. Mom, Victoria literally called and told me I wasn't invited because I make people uncomfortable with my success. How else am I supposed to take that? You're twisting her words. I'm not twisting anything. You cut me out, so I made other plans. Good plans, with people who actually wanted me there. You could have been discreet about it, my mother said, her voice sharp. But no, you had to post it all over the internet like some kind of celebrity. Your father is mortified. I posted photos of Thanksgiving dinner. That's what people do. Not like this. Not with... She paused, searching for words. Not with all this showing off. The mansion, the harbor, the fancy food. It's too much, Elena. And there it was again. The same message I'd been hearing my whole life. You're too much. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said, my voice cold. But I'm not apologizing for hosting a beautiful Thanksgiving. I worked hard for this life. I earned it. That's exactly the problem, my mother snapped. You think everything is about what you've earned, what you've accomplished. But you've forgotten about family. You're the one who forgot about family when you uninvited me. What she said next would force me to make a decision I never thought I'd have to make. After I hung up with my mother, I opened my family group chat. It had been quiet on Thanksgiving Day, just a few photos of their small gathering that clearly showed 18-plus people crowded around my parents' dining table. But now it was exploding. Aunt Marie. Elena, your Thanksgiving looked beautiful. Why weren't you with us? Cousin Jessica. Okay, but seriously, that house, Uncle Carlos, Elena always did know how to throw a party. Victoria, can everyone please stop? This is getting out of hand. Aunt Marie, I'm just asking a question. Why wasn't Elena invited? Victoria, it was a small gathering. We can't invite everyone. Cousin Jessica, but you invited 18 people? How is that small? Brandon, my brother, can we not do this in the group chat? Aunt Marie, no, I think we should talk about this. Elena is family. Why was she excluded? I watched the messages roll in, feeling both vindicated and exhausted. My relatives were finally asking the questions I'd wanted them to ask. Then Victoria sent a private message to me. Victoria, are you happy now? You've turned the whole family against Mom and Dad. Me, I didn't turn anyone against anyone. I just lived my life. Victoria, you posted those photos knowing they'd go viral. You wanted this drama. Me, I posted photos of my Thanksgiving. I didn't expect them to blow up, but honestly, I'm not sorry they did. Victoria, you're being petty and spiteful. Me, and you were being cruel when you uninvited me, but I guess that's different, right? She didn't respond. That evening, I got a call from my father. Unlike my mother, my father had always been quiet, measured. He rarely got involved in family drama, preferring to stay neutral. Elena, he said when I answered, it's Dad. Hi, Dad. I saw your photos. Your home is beautiful. I waited, unsure where this was going. I want you to know, he continued slowly, that uninviting you wasn't my idea. Your mother and Victoria made that decision. I disagreed with it. I felt tears prick my eyes unexpectedly. Then why didn't you say something? I should have, he admitted. I should have stood up for you. But I took the easy way out. I stayed quiet. And that was wrong. Dad, you've worked incredibly hard for what you have, Elena. Your mother and sister feel threatened by that. They see your success as a judgment on their choices. But that's their issue, not yours. I wiped my eyes. Thank you for saying that. I'm proud of you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't say it enough, but I am. You built something real, something lasting, and you did it on your own. Not entirely on my own, I said quietly. You helped me with the down payment on my first duplex. Remember? He laughed softly. $8,000. You turned that into millions. Still wouldn't have happened without you. We talked for another hour about his work, about my projects, about family dynamics and regrets and hopes for the future. When we hung up, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. 2 days after Thanksgiving, Victoria showed up at my house unannounced. I was in workout clothes, about to go for a run, when I saw her Mercedes pull into my driveway. I opened the door before she could ring the bell. We need to talk, she said, walking past me into my foyer. Come in, I guess, I muttered, closing the door. Victoria stood in my entryway, looking around at the vaulted ceilings, the chandelier, the view of the harbor through the floor-to-ceiling windows. This place is ridiculous, she said. Thanks? She turned to face me. Do you know how many people have asked me about your Thanksgiving? About why you weren't with us? That's not my problem, Victoria. It is your problem. You made it your problem when you posted those photos. I crossed my arms. You uninvited me. I made other plans. That's it. I didn't post those photos to hurt you. Then why did you post them? She demanded. Because I was proud. Because I wanted to share a beautiful day with people I care about. Why is that so hard to understand? Victoria's face crumpled, and suddenly she was crying. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen her use before, but real, crying. Because it's not fair. She sobbed. None of this is fair. You have everything, Elena. This house, your career, your freedom, and I have... She gestured helplessly. I have a mortgage I can barely afford, and a marriage that's falling apart, and kids who won't listen to me. I softened slightly. Victoria, I'm jealous, she said, wiping her eyes. I've always been jealous of you. You were always smarter, more driven, more ambitious, and I just wanted to be the favorite for once. And in that moment, I realized the truth that would change everything. I led Victoria to my living room and we sat down on the couch. I handed her a tissue. You want to know the truth? I said quietly. I've been jealous of you too. She looked up, shocked. What? You were always the one Mom loved most, the one she confided in, the one whose opinion mattered. I was just the workaholic daughter she didn't quite understand. But you're so successful. Success doesn't mean I wasn't hurt, I interrupted. It doesn't mean I didn't spend my whole life trying to earn Mom's approval and never quite getting it. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I didn't know you felt that way. Because we never talk. Not really. We compete. We compare. But we don't actually talk. She nodded slowly. You're right. We sat there in silence, both of us processing years of resentment and misunderstanding. I'm sorry I uninvited you, Victoria finally said. It was cruel, and it was wrong. Mom was in my ear about how you were showing off, and I let my jealousy make the decision. I'm sorry I didn't reach out more, I said. I got so focused on building my career that I forgot to maintain relationships. That's on me. Your Thanksgiving looked amazing, Victoria said with a small smile. I mean it. That house, the setup, the people, it looked perfect. It was, I admitted. It really was. Over the next week, I had separate conversations with my mother and brother. My mother was harder. She was still upset about the photos, still felt I'd embarrassed the family, but I held my ground. Mom, I love you, but I'm not going to apologize for my success. I'm not going to make myself smaller to make other people comfortable. If that bothers you, that's something you need to work through. You sound so cold, she said. I'm not cold. I'm just done trying to earn your approval. I'm 34 years old. I've built a good life. Either you can be proud of me or you can keep being resentful. But I'm not changing. She was silent for a long time. Then quietly, I am proud of you, Elena. I just don't know how to show it. Then learn, I said gently, because I'm not going anywhere. This is who I am. My brother Brandon was more straightforward. He apologized for not defending me and admitted he'd been jealous too. You make the rest of us look bad, he said with a self-deprecating laugh. But that's our problem, not yours. I don't want to make anyone look bad, I said. I just want to live my life. Then do it, he said, and ignore the haters, even if they're family. A year later, Thanksgiving looked different. I hosted again at my estate. But this time, my family was invited. My mother came, along with my father. Victoria brought her family. Brandon came with his wife. Even a few aunts and uncles made the trip. They mixed with my friends, Jasmine and Marcus and Patricia and Sophie, the construction crew and the neighbors and the colleagues. We set up tables on the terrace again, the same Edison lights, the same view of the harbor, the same autumn arrangements. But the atmosphere was different, warmer, less performative. My mother pulled me aside before dinner. This is beautiful, Elena, she said, looking around. Thank you for including us. Your family, Mom. You'll always be included, as long as you can accept me for who I am. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm trying. I really am. That's all I ask. At dinner, I stood up to make a toast. Last year, I said, looking around at the faces gathered before me, I learned an important lesson. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up for you, who celebrate your wins and support you through losses, who accept you exactly as you are. I raised my glass. To chosen family and to second chances. Everyone raised their glasses. To family, they echoed. Looking back, being uninvited from Thanksgiving was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It forced me to confront something I'd been avoiding my whole life, the need for external validation. I'd spent years trying to make my family proud, trying to prove my worth, trying to earn a seat at the table. But the truth is, I didn't need their permission to celebrate my success. I didn't need their approval to live my life fully and unapologetically. That viral Thanksgiving taught me that success isn't something to apologize for. It's something to embrace, to share, to celebrate. Yes, it can make people uncomfortable. Yes, it can trigger jealousy and resentment. But that's not your burden to carry. that's theirs. I learned to set boundaries with people I love, to say, I'm not going to shrink myself to make you comfortable, to understand that real love doesn't require you to dim your light. My relationship with my family isn't perfect. There are still awkward moments, still tensions, but we're learning. They're learning to celebrate my success instead of resenting it. I'm learning to be more present, more vulnerable, more patient. And my chosen family, they're still here. Every Thanksgiving, every milestone, every triumph and setback. So let me ask you, if your family asked you to make yourself smaller, to make them feel bigger, would you do it? Or would you stand firm in who you are? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Because living authentically is never easy, but it's always worth it. Happy Thanksgiving.